Oh, am I really gonna wear this? Fuck it. Okay. I made it to Hong Kong. Right here. You can see it. This is Hong Kong. It wasn't easy. In fact, this was my second attempt to move here in the last 2 weeks. Because the first time it didn't work out. I mean, obviously things with COVID right now are pretty crazy all over the world, and it's just a lot more crazy trying to move these days. I don't know why, of all the times that I decided to move across the world, which is during a pandemic. Oh well, here now. Anyways, everybody who knows me knows that I've been planning to come here for, since like May or April or something. Am I centered? Been planning for a long time to come here to teach English. Why am I so monotone? Okay, so basically this entire summer was really stressful for many reasons. One, I was working a pretty intense internship and I was working a lot of hours. I was working like 70 hours a week leading up to when I left, which is a lot. But that's okay. It was a really awesome internship. It was also just really stressful doing this really high stakes internship while also trying to move during a pandemic. And the biggest and most stressful issue of the moving leading up to it was the COVID numbers in the US, not here, because earlier, I think in the end of June, Hong Kong announced that they were like barring all UK travelers because they were having a COVID spike. So from there, the UK's COVID spike, people from the UK weren't allowed to go to Hong Kong at all unless they spent 3 weeks in another country that had lower, like a lower risk country before they left. And everyone was saying that the US was going to follow in the UK's lead in getting a big COVID spike, which we did. Tons of COVID now in the US, which is really sad. Get vaccinated. I was pretty much watching the US's COVID numbers and stressing about when Hong Kong was going to announce that they weren't letting any US travelers either. Thankfully, they never did that, and so that was a success. That would have been, oh my gosh, such a headache if I had to deal with that. But it's okay. I was just stressing myself out because I was so convinced that they were going to announce that the US was barred from going to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is super strict. But yeah, so that was the one thing, stressing about that on top of trying to move, on top of my internship, on top of having a healthy social life and seeing all my friends before I left and sleeping and seeing my family enough. Wow, how did I do that? Okay, sorry, I had to pee. So, now on to the actual attempting to leave. So, set to fly out on August 1st, the evening of August 1st. And Hong Kong requires a lot of documents, and so I made sure to get my COVID test 72 hours beforehand. I got my COVID test, I had my visa, I had a passport and my hotel confirmation, and I was pretty sure that I was all set. So I got to Logan Airport and I showed all my documents to I was taking Air Canada, who, by the way, can go screw themselves. You'll see why. Anyways, the Air Canada guy was pretty nice, but he said, oh, the COVID test that I got, my name on it wasn't my full name that aligned with my passport. And then he said that might be an issue because my passport had my middle name, which is Kelly, and my COVID test didn't have Kelly. And so we stood there for a while trying to figure it out, like almost not arguing with him, but being like, no, we're sure it's okay. And he called his supervisor person from Air Canada, and his supervisor person from Air Canada said it would be fine. And so he was like, okay, it's fine, you guys can go. So checked in, went through security, and then, got to my gate. Flight was delayed like an hour and a half. Got on my flight, and I had a layover in Toronto before I took a flight to Hong Kong. So I got to Toronto, and it was all fine and dandy. And then I got to where my gate was for my Hong Kong flight, and I realized that the people were checking like documents and stuff. So I was like, oh no, are they gonna care about my middle name thing? Which they would have if I had gotten that far. Before I even got up to the people to have my documents checked, I realized that I was missing something that I didn't even know I needed, which is a CLIA accredited CLIA certificate that states that the lab that I got my COVID test at was like CLIA certified. And when I heard that, I was like, what are you even talking about? I had no idea what was going on. So, and I wasn't the only one who didn't have that. Other people also didn't have that. So when I realized that I didn't have that, the Air Canada people were like, well, you can't come on the plane because by the time you get to Hong Kong, if you don't have that document, they're just going to send you right back home. And I was like, so what am I supposed to do? And they said, because I was American and not Canadian, I couldn't technically leave the airport because I would have to quarantine for 14 days because I had come from America. So I couldn't even leave the airport to go to try to get a COVID test. And I think there was a COVID place next to or in the Toronto airport, but it was 2 in the morning, so it was closed. And the issue was I had to, basically they told me to go home. They were like, you have to buy a flight back home. And when I looked at the flight prices for the next morning to Boston, it was unnecessarily expensive because it was such a last minute booking. And I'm so glad that I got the last seat on an 8:30 flight home. But it was it was over $1,000 from Toronto to Boston. That's less than 2-hour flight. And I had to pay for that. It's so sad. So I called my parents. I honestly am really proud of how I kept it together. I could have had a full-blown panic attack. Could have cried. And I managed to keep it together until I got home, and then I just let it all out. But basically, I had to get that 8:30 in the morning flight because the next flight after that, it would have been outside of that 72-hour time zone where I got my COVID test originally. So you can't travel internationally if you don't have a COVID test within 72 hours. And my COVID test, which I was supposed to use to go to Hong Kong, would have expired if I had booked a flight later than 8:30. So I'm really lucky that I managed to get the last seat on that plane, because if I couldn't go on the next plane because my COVID test had expired, I also couldn't really get a new COVID test because I would have had to quarantine in Canada for 14 days because I'm not really supposed to leave and go get a COVID test. I'm supposed to quarantine if I just came from America. Do you see it? Understand this? It's freaking insane. I'm also getting PTSD right now just talking about it. Anyways, I got a really expensive flight home, and I went home, and my brother picked me up, and my parents didn't sleep because they were worried about me. I didn't sleep. Well, actually, no, I kind of slept on a sofa thing in the airport. I felt like complete garbage though. Oh, and the next morning, trying to get to my 8:30 flight, bro, I've never seen an airport that packed. It was actually insane. There were thousands of people in there trying to check in. It was crazy. It was so hectic, and I thought I was gonna miss my flight, so that was also really stressful too. But I made it, and they delayed the flight because nobody was on time because they didn't have enough staff working. Honestly, screw Air Canada. So I got home from my flight, cried for a while. Yeah, cried for a while. And then I watched Ratatouille because that's my comfort movie. Ratatouille Big Hero 6 and WALL-E. Like, those Pixar movies just give me comfort. And then I was like, okay, time to fix this. The issue with coming to Hong Kong right now, aside from the fact that they're super strict with their documents, like, oh my gosh, it's insane. Aside from that, you need to book your quarantine hotel like months in advance. Not months, okay, like a couple weeks, many weeks in advance, because they book out really fast. Especially when I was trying to move early August, like students are coming back for college, and you know, just everyone's like traveling right now. So I was really worried that I wasn't gonna be able to find a quarantine hotel. And I looked and looked and looked and looked, and no place had any availability around like when I was trying to go. I kept looking and I kept looking, and finally I found a quarantine hotel from August 8th. And here, I don't even know how to pronounce this hotel because I can't speak Cantonese. It's Long Kwai Fong, I think, hotel. I found this place. Thank goodness, because I must have checked like 10 or 12 hotels all within like a span of like 2 weeks time period, and none of them had any availability. And this did, thank goodness. So I booked it immediately, and then finding a flight was really easy because no one's really flying. I don't know why that is. All the hotels are booked, but all the planes are empty. How does that make sense? Anyways, it was really easy to find a flight. I decided not to go with Air Canada because screw them. I went with American Airlines and Cathay Pacific, and both were really helpful, so kind, and I made sure I like quadruple checked all my documents. I went through that noise. Anyways, I got 2 COVID tests, and just to be sure, and 2 CLIA certificates, and I was really paranoid leading up to it that something else was gonna go wrong and I'd have to fly back again, which honestly I don't think I would have been able to take. It probably would have just collapsed. But thankfully I made it through the second time. And it was still a really long day, honestly. I mean, traveling across the world, and then once I got to Hong Kong airport, you know, we all got COVID tested and we had to wait for our results, and we had to go through all these procedures. But it wasn't too bad. It was only like 4 hours in the airport, and then it was like 2 hours trying to get to my hotel through the shuttle bus. But now I'm here, and the hard part is over, thankfully. That was my disastrous first attempt at moving to Hong Kong during COVID. Yeah, they're really, really, really strict about their documents and stuff, which I knew they were strict, but I didn't know they were this strict, because apparently they were even sending people home from Hong Kong. So I'm glad I didn't get on that plane from Toronto, because if I had gone all the way to Hong Kong to be sent back, damn, that would have been like a $4,000 flight with how last minute it would be. Oof. Yeah, I also realized that I'm pretty sure Canada hates me. Yeah, because the only 2 times I've been there, the first time, some Canadians smashed the windows of my car and stole all my stuff, including my passport. And the second time this happened, and they were really mean about it too. So I'm pretty sure that's a sign that I shouldn't go back to Canada. Yeah, but don't worry, I'm here now. I'm gonna live it up for 10 months. I'm gonna appreciate everything here, and I'm gonna have lots of fun and make new friends, new experiences. So probably more stuff to come that isn't as depressing as this. So yeah. Okay, bye.